Assalamualaikum and good day to all of you who listen to this presentation. My name is Yasmin and together with my partner Muhammad Iqbal Iskandar, we will present our group assignment AIF 1014 Asian Emporium titled Indianisation Culture in Majapahit. The next slide will be the abstract. Indianisation positively impacted much of the Southeast Asia, with Indianisation coastal states emerging around the 3rd century according to Codex. This process extended the Indian civilization eastward, introduced Indian culture to farther India, encompassing the Indo-Chinese peninsula and Malay archipelago, especially the Indonesian island. However, by the early 14th century, the decline of Indian kingdoms began due to the rise of Mughal power in China and Muslim incursion in India, leading to the significant political change and spiritual as well. Mainland Southeast Asia shifted from Hinduism and Mahayana Buddhism to Sinhalese Buddhism around 1330 in Cambodia and 1378 in Sumatra, while Islam spread in Sumatra. Indian Tantrism persists mainly in Java and Bali. The Majapahit kingdom, lasting only arrival of the Western colonists in 1527, was the last bastion of the Indian influence by the Malay archipelago. Today, Bali retains much of the Majapahit culture and custom. This paper explored the impact of a difference between Indianization and local culture. On to the next slide. Codex argued that Southeast Asian archaeological evidence does not always reflect the early civilization. In his book titled The Indianization State in Southeast Asia, he notes early Indian settlements from the Neolithic era in regions like Sampanga, Kuala Klinsing, and Eko, indicating a long-term contact with Indian traders and immigrants who brought Sanskrit religions, taxes, and goods. Alfred Faucher described Indianization as an adaptation of Indian cultures, laws, language, and custom by the local uncultured society, facilitated by the pre-existing similarities with the pre-Aryan India. While Indianization began in prehistoric times, significant Indian immigrants occurred during the Christian era, spreading Indian religion, culture, and Sanskrit language. The term Indianization refers to adoption of structured society influenced by the Indian royalty concepts, Buddhist and Hindu beliefs, as well as Sanskrit texts. Indian culture spread via land and sea, primarily affecting coastal kingdoms involving in trades. However, some indigenous groups, like the Proto-Malays, maintained their distinct identities. Majapahit welcomed Brahmins and who played a crucial role in shaping local culture with Hindu-Buddha tradition, especially in administration. The Majapahit political system, known as Mandala, created a strong connection with the other kingdoms, protecting Majapahit from invasion. Despite skepticism, evidence shows that Brahmins significantly impact Majapahit culture, which is still evident today. This research focusing on the Brahmin influence on the Majapahit Indianization, challenging the historians who discarded philosophical and theological methods in favor of physical evidence. Our research question is, what is Indianization and Indigenization in Southeast Asia? What is the difference between the Indianization culture and local culture? And what kind of cultural legacy of Majapahit in modern Indonesia? Our objectives are to study and understand the term used in Indianization and indigenization of local culture in Majapahit as well as other kingdoms in Southeast Asia, to identify the similarity and difference of Majapahit and Indian culture, and also to determine the legacy of Majapahit culture in modern Indonesia. Now, onto the thematic review. Introduction is in Majapahit Empire's significant role in Southeast Asian culture and political history. We are focusing on Indianization and indigenization of Majapahit and Southeast Asian kingdoms. The objectives are identify culture similarities and the difference between Majapahit and Indian culture and examine Majapahit legacy in modern Indonesia. The terminology used in this research is Indianization and indigenization. Indianization meaning the introduction of Indian culture, especially religion, Hinduism and Buddhism, social structure, political ideas, art form, and Sanskrit languages. While the Indianization is an adaptation and a transformation of foreign elements into a fit local context. Example is Majapahit blending Indian religious concept with the local belief, creating a unique syncretic culture. The similarity and the differences. We start with the religion and philosophical influence. The similarity is the prominence of Hinduism and Buddhism influenced by the Indian religion texts. The difference is in the inclusion of local animistic and ancestral worship practices. The art and architecture. The similarity is the intricate art and grand architecture structures. The difference is the use of local materials and the incorporation of local motifs. The next similarity and the difference is in political system and the governance. Similarity is influence of Indian models, divine kingship and the Mandala system. And the difference is the adaptation to suit local social political context, creating a hybrid administrative culture. The next one is legacy in modern Indonesia. We start with the languages. Javanese language retained many Sanskrit words from the period of Indianization. Next one is arts. Traditional dance, music, and theatre reflects a blend of Indian and local influence. Religion. Modern Indonesian Hinduism, especially in Bali, descend from Majapahit practices. The next one is philosophical impact. Indonesian spiritual practice echo a blended of Hindu and Buddhist ideals. The last one, is political and social structures. Pancasila, linked to Majapahit syncretic government model shaping the modern Indonesian society. Slide is research gap. This research enforced the theory that Brahmins were key agents of Indianization in Southeast Asia, spreading cultures harmoniously and influencing Majapahit's social hierarchy and administration. There is a lack of extensive research on Brahmin in Majapahit, with existing records offering only brief mention of their role and influence. The next is theoretical framework. We use cultural division theory, synchronism theory, and post-colonial theory. We start with the cultural diffusion theory. The concept and the cultural elements spread through the trade, migration, and or conquest. Relevance explain the spread of Indian culture, religious, and political elements onto Southeast Asia. It emphasizes on the dominant culture, influence, and transform local societies. The next is syncretism theory. The concept is blending of different culture, religion, and philosophical system. The relevance is local cultures adapt and transform foreign elements, which is in this case called Indianisation, which you can see in illustration of Majapahit integrated from Indian influence with indigenous traditional to create a distinct cultural identity. And last and not the least is post-colonial theory. The concept is effects of colonialism and cultural imperialism on colonized societies. The relevance is to understand lasting impact on Indianization and the hybrid identities in Southeast Asia. This focusing on how society resists, adapt, and transform in post-cultural elements. Is our conceptual framework. In here, Indianization introduced of Indian culture, art, society, religious and political elements into Southeast Asia via trade, migration, scholarly exchange, and religious mission. Indianization, adaptation of foreign elements to local context, creating a unique culture practicing blending Indian influence and indigenous tradition. Example of this is that we can see in Majapahit adaptation of Ramayana, the Kakawin Ramakien, in shadow puppet theatres incorporating local elements. Majapahit legacy, continuation of religious practice and linguistic influence, artistic expression, and political concept from Indianization in modern Indonesia. Cultural impact is Majapahit Empire influence from the late 13th century to the 16th century, seen in the modern Indonesian religion, language, arts, and architecture and political ideas. Now, on to the scope and limitation. The scope is exclude the economic aspect of the Majapahit history. Research sources is internet and social media due to geographical distance of Indonesia. Our focus is culture, religious, life, custom, tradition, and political system. The challenges is methodological difference among the researchers, confusion in identifying findings from different kingdoms, limitation focus on Java, Majapahit capital, archaeological limitation, erosion and unclear features of artifacts, few studies of Indianization and localization due to these challenges, cultural preservation, examining remaining Hinduism and Javanese philosophical influence. Our research methodology is starting with the category, which is ancient historical research. The focus are Majapahit Empire at its religions, life and Indianization influence in 14th century and 15th century. Our methodology is historical data collection and qualitative resources. Our sources is historical documents, work of literature, folktales, observation of Majapahit culture, inscription and manuscript before and after the Majapahit era. The next is our primary resources, which is written works. The next, our approach, theoretical study with examination of archaeological data. and our archaeological focus is religion and culture monuments reflecting Indianisation in Majapahit. Next is our data gathering. We start with the library research. The method is based on our secondary data. Sources are books, academic papers, article journals, and internet materials. Our literature process is search for similar literature on Indianization and Javanese culture, interpret historical sources such as journals, NMPU Prancanas, and Negara Kertamagama. The comparative analysis is examining Javanese culture from Yogyakarta and Bali Islands to find the similarities. The next is our observation. We focus on Java traditional dance observed through the internet, distinctive gap between Java traditional dance and other Southeast Asian dances, philosophy, language, and custom. Archaeological remains is comparison of Keraton Majapahit, Trowolan, and Keraton Yogyakarta. The similar philosophy combining Java and Hinduism. Social aspects is the Brahmin's role in shaping social aspect of Hinduism in Majapahit. Observation of Indonesian culture, post-Islamization, continuity of Javanese culture after the arrival of Islam. The next is data analysis. According to Rudolf Triem, qualitative data analysis is a very personal process with a few rigid rules and procedures. These researches aim to examine a lasting impact of Indianization brought by the Brahmin/Hindu monks on the Majapahit remains. We first identify research gap and deepen our understanding of articulation theory. The literature review is crucial to uncover historical issues between Indian and Javanese culture and align findings with our study. We explore Indianization impact on Majapahit architecture, art, symbol, and ideology, and as well as political. By comparing ancient and modern culture, we aim to reveal the enduring influence of Indianization of Majapahit and contemporary Javanese culture. Next is significance of study. This study is important for students and the new researchers who are likely to engage in knowing more about Majapahit history and the Southeast Asia history. This research might be a new insight and beneficial for those who are interested in history and sociology to discover and expand the study about this. The findings of this study will redound the society consideration that history really plays an important role in their lives. Besides, Southeast Asian studies in the new field in the social science that is needed to cover the history of the ancient kingdom holistically. Thus, this research will help the substitute and contribute to more bigger and extensive research in the future.
So we move on to the next slides about result and findings. A lot of traditional dances has a lot of similarities in formation, movement, custom, and musical instrument. That this is a part of social development in Majapahit. Tarian Bedaya and Tarian Rimpi have a lot of similarities. In the past, some of these performances were to show loyalty and entertain the king, called the court performance. And the similarities also can be seen with a roof imitation shape of roof between the Keraton Trawulan in Majapahit and Keraton Yogyakarta Hadiningrat. Fashion of Majapahit also was preserved until this day, especially in Majapahit Surya Batik pattern. Social development in Majapahit was before the Indianisation started, and the Indianisation was brought by the Brahmin, and they played a vital role to embellish that culture. Tarian Bedaya and Tarian Rimpi. Tarian Bedaya was an ancient dance since the Majapahit era, and it was improvised in the Hayam Wuruk period. Tarian Bedaya was significantly impact to the Majapahit as a self-expression toward the Hindu divinity Shiva and Vishnu god. This dance is believed from a Brahmin, which is get enlightened from the Candi Kacilik and Candi Penataran, and taught his philosophical to the people. This traditional dance is also represent to the Queen of Majapahit, Tribuana Tunggadewi. This particular dance was traditionally danced only performed exclusively for the royal court and was reserved for rather sacred and ceremonial occasions, such as the coronation ceremony. This dance is performed by 9 dancers considered to be the sacred heirloom passed down from kings to another that act as protectors of the sultan in the spiritual realms. Bedaya performance also include texts in archaic Javanese that were chanted, recited, and sung by the male choir, narrator, female vocalist, and mid choir. With this dance, they pay tribute to the goddess of the South Sea, named Ratu Kidul, Nyai Rara Kidul, in hope they could have peace between the human and the spirits. And we can see have a lot of similarities also in Terence Rimpi that was localized as a new dance evolved from Bedaya associated with Hindu philosophy, Jagat Purana. This dance actually was spread from palace to the peasant, that we are mentioned earlier that we study that the social hierarchy is from top to the bottom, and Terence Rimpi is a less sacred than Bedaya. That also we can see in archaeological evidence at that time. The city of Trawulan in Majapahit era proved that the position of Trawulan itself is very strategic that can be accessed either by land or waterway. So it is very possible that this kingdom has contacted the outside world for trade, social, cultural, and political interests. It is possible that comparison of the Hindu ceremonies still performed in the Javanese palace and royal cities with those currently performed in Bali. Even though Islam was spread through the initial in today, but the Hinduistic architecture is still preserved to this day. Earlier structure of Keraton preserved in Trawulan, but the same feature perhaps can be seen also in Keraton, Yogyakarta Hadiningrat in the reign of Sultan Mangkubumi. Keraton in Trawulan could be defined as palace or holy temple, and the remain structure was preserved like as Candi Penataran. Keraton was built by the advice of Brahmin based on the Negara Kertagama and Dasawarnana, and the roof shape was quite similar with the Keraton Yogyakarta Hadiningrat. Next, we go to the fashion of Majapahit. Majapahit clothing are heavily influenced by the Indian culture. According to the Jan Westman Christie, majority of Majapahit clothing are heavily influenced by Indian culture. However, the major difference between the Indian clothing and Majapahit is batik. There are no records stating what kind of fabric was used in Majapahit clothing, but the cotton and silk made locally or from India. The type of textile or patterns play an important role in Majapahit and social hierarchy. Until today, there was still a batik that called a Majapahit Surya that used the Majapahit Surya logo in the batik patterns. In the discussion, we comprehend that Indianisation was spread throughout Indonesia, emphasizing Brahmin roles helped rulers to make him to be seen as Deva Raja. Brahmin became salient in Majapahit, influenced Majapahit policies including social aspect. These two entities, king and monks, implemented various of new development in Majapahit to make the locals obey him. Mutual relationship from both monks as religion propagator and king as defender of religion. This made Hindu Java culture not going to extinct until today. Even though Islam has come to the Indonesia, but it not make culture to change entirely but adapt into it. So this is our summary. This group project goals is to examine the cultural process of Indianisation and Indianisation in Southeast Asia, with an emphasis of the Majapahit Kingdom. The importance of this research is to determine the identification of Indian culture in Majapahit Kingdom with its political structure, social structure, religion, custom, and traditions, which is the main contribution of this research. Apparently, from all of our literature assessment that the Majapahit Kingdom's Indianisation process began long before the monarchy of Majapahit Empire was founded. Before the local culture was assimilated with the Indian culture, no such recording existed so far. It is more common for the local culture and custom transmitted verbally from one generation to the next. As a result, it is almost impossible to compare or identify the specific local practice of Majapahit without the intervention of Indian culture. In order to proceed with this research, we must determine the similarities between the Indian and Majapahit culture, which are mostly Hindu Buddha. The small variation can be categorized as a localized variety of Indian culture. It can be referred to as the indigenous culture if none of the other civilizations share any resemblance. So this is our reference, that's including books, article journals, video internet, various of reference. So thank you.